Okay, now we're ready to go and start. Today I have Dina with me, and I'm so grateful, by the way, that we finally made it work. Super last minute.
Always meant to be.
Always meant to be. We were supposed to meet last week, but then for better reasons, we find ourselves here today.
Yeah. We both had throat chakra issues.
We
last
did.
week.
Funny enough, by the way, both of us
Yeah.
had throat chakra issues, and I feel like that's so on point with our topic of conversation today.
Yes, it is.
It really, really is. Given the placement of Palestine in the world, it is also representative of the throat chakra.
Yeah, it's the throat chakra of the world. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have Dina, and Dina is a body worker and healer, and my favorite yoga teacher in Dubai.
Aww.
Really, I
Thank
won't
you.
say it lightly, but I do miss your classes. But you're on a break right now, and I think it's the best thing ever.
I'm really being very open and just seeing what comes out of it. I have been working for, as many of us have, for just so many years. You just keep putting one foot forward, one foot forward, one foot forward. And then at some point, especially now with what's happening in Palestine and what it's doing in awakening in all of us, there just came a moment where I was like, whoa, I need to really press the brakes, take a pause, take a moment, just to see where are the places that I might need to take care of myself and resource myself. And then also just to make sure that I'm continuing to offer authentically and from the heart and from a good space. And I wasn't in a good space. So I was like, okay, I need to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been interesting.
It's really important to listen to ourselves. I find that we live in a world where obviously we push through a lot of things. We push through fatigue. We push through the discomfort, which sometimes is definitely needed. Yes, like we know in our yoga practice, like sitting with the discomfort is good. In meditation, sitting with the discomfort is good. But then there also comes a time where it's almost like, am I burning myself to the ground? And for what? And for who? And to really just take that step back and reevaluate your place as well and the direction that you're going into. I find that that takes a lot more courage than to just keep pushing through sometimes.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, I did feel big, even though in my mind I was like, what's the big deal? Like, just take a break. It's no big deal. But yes, it did feel really, really big. It still feels like a really big initiation. And like you said, it is uncomfortable to stop when we've been conditioned for so long to push through, to work hard, to overachieve, to get to a certain goal, to push through certain messages and triggers that our bodies might be giving us. And that already happened to me during COVID. I was having severe gut issues and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed and my body finally broke down. And in a way, I'm thankful it was COVID because it was like, okay, you are not going to do anything but stay home and get better. And I feel like that was the first big call for me to be like, okay, there are things in life that are more important than work. There are things that are more important than achieving. And it's unfortunate that sometimes it has to happen, at the expense of our physical, mental, or collective familial health. But I guess that's how the messages need to come through. And for each person, it's different. And for me, that's what it was. And I feel like I'm having another moment now of that. And when the message came through to like take a break, I was like, okay, this time I'm going to listen because I remember what happened before. And I don't want to go back there again.
It's so interesting because I also experienced burnout many years ago when I was working corporate. And obviously working corporate, you push through a bunch of stuff. You don't listen to yourself. I had a lot of gut health issues as well,
Wow.
a lot of hormonal issues too. So it's interesting when you are in that space and it's really your body speaking to you. And there's this saying, I'm sure a lot of people heard it before, like, listen to your body when it whispers, like listen to it on the whisper, not on the shout. And we forget that. We really want our bodies sometimes to shout at us for us to get the message. And it's like, well, why didn't you listen when I was giving you the signals before? And part of it might be like the conditioning
Mm-hmm.
that we've grown up with, that we have to keep being human doings, not human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And another part might be like perhaps our egos that are like, I need to prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to be worthy when I
Mm-hmm.
reach this place. And interestingly, the yoga practice takes us inwards into our internal world. So even to start with that with you right now, like where did your yoga journey begin? And or even just your healing journey as a whole? Was it with yoga? Was it through something else?
Yeah. Funnily enough, I came across yoga when I was 15. I was still in high school, and a friend of mine in school was actually playing like a VHS video, and she was kind of practicing along to this, video that she had bought online. And she was just kind of doing it in her living room. And she came up into a headstand. And I remember thinking at that time, like a teenager who wanted to do great things with my body, was like, wow, she's so strong. Like, look what she's able to accomplish. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, this is yoga. And I think I'd heard like Madonna was doing it or something, because it was like all these fringe things start with celebrities and then it becomes a bit more mainstream. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll download, or I'll download, I'll buy this VHS video as well. And so I did. And I would just practice in my bedroom by myself, just on the carpet. Like, of course, I didn't know, there wasn't this focus as much at the time on all of the accessories that come with yoga. And so I remember just in a very short period of time feeling so connected to my body, feeling so strong, like getting so strong, getting so flexible from just repeating the same thing really over and over and over and over again. And it was quite an advanced video, but I always tell people like it's probably like the better part of the foundation of my teaching and my practice, because every time they would hold a pose for 10 or 5 breaths, there would be like a voiceover and it'd be like, Warrior 2 strengthens the abdominal muscles, aids in digestion, and tones the thighs and hamstrings. And like, so I would like learn all of the benefits of the poses as I was doing it. And then after I went to university, there wasn't as much yoga, but I came back to the UAE in 2010 and I lived right next to a yoga studio, and I got back into it then. And then, it was like a falling in love. It was like coming home again, something like I remember doing all the time. I'm also not a very competitive person. I find competition quite intimidating. And so even though like I was decent at sports, it wasn't my thing. Like I didn't want to like push people and be like, I'm getting to the basketball net whether you like it or not. Like, I'm like, let's all just like sit together and be happy, which is probably why I'm doing what I'm doing. But so there was something really nice about not doing it with other people. Like finally didn't have to like compare my body, compare my strength, compare my flexibility. It was something I could just do by myself. It's changed a lot now. There is a lot of this big room energy, people wearing all kinds of different colors and leggings, and how you show up physically and visibly is a big part of it now. Whether that's a good thing or not is debatable. But yeah, it was something that was very special and very sacred. And I'm so grateful that I started it when I did. And it's kind of just evolved from there. From there, it went into like my clients getting pregnant. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll do some pregnancy yoga. So I learned that. And then my pregnant clients would ask me these questions about birth, and I was like, I don't know, but I'm actually really curious because I'm a woman and nobody taught me anything about my body and what it's supposed to do. So I went and became a doula, and that was incredible. And then the womb massage, and then the energy healing. And so I feel like it's been this really beautiful organic journey of like little doors like opening and just kind of following the lead, and just like hearing this little whisper of like, okay, let's just move here and see what this is like, and move here and see what this is like. And it's I feel very grateful to have some beautiful tools under my belt now.
It's so beautiful that you started so young as well, and that your awareness was there and you were present. I mean, yoga was mentioned to me so many times growing up. Like, I remember the times it was mentioned to me. My mom used to do yoga,
Oh, wow.
and she used to tell me I'm going to yoga class, and I'm like, okay, interesting. And then I had a friend of mine at university that was saying that she was going to yoga and I should try it and it's amazing. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I would say I'm not flexible. And then my PT became a yoga teacher at university. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And it was literally like love at first try. I fell in love with the practice right away. And it wasn't the physical aspects of it that got me into it. It was really just noticing that there was a voice in my head. And I was like, what is that? Like, there's somebody in there and like narrating everything all the time. And that's where I really became aware of the voice in my head. So that's how I got sucked into the yoga practice. And as well, I started to realize the disconnection I had between my mind and my body. So it's interesting, like you're mentioning sports. I also wasn't into sports so much. I was very clumsy, used to fall down a lot. I was very, hypermobile. So even the yoga practice for a while was injuring me. I was getting hurt because I was hyper flexible in my joints. So even after I did my yoga teacher training, it was only when I did my 300 hours that I realized, oh wait, like I need to stabilize my joints and get stronger physically, because being too flexible also has its downsides.
Totally.
And yeah, but I love that at 15, like it came into your awareness. You're like, okay, I'm catching on to it right now. And you continued. And I feel like it put you exactly where you were supposed to be when you're supposed to be. Not that, I'm saying I wasn't where I was supposed to be, but it's really just, it's beautiful when you answer the call.
Yeah. And they always say like, you were probably doing it already in your past life. And so there's a part of you that's just picking up where you left off, especially if it just feels so right. And I think that's a testament to your instructor, your teacher, your PT, because unfortunately people do go to their first class and don't always have such a positive experience. And that's when it breaks my heart a little bit, because I'm like, no, it is so beautiful. And I'm like, who was your teacher? And where can I find them? So I'm so glad that you had a really positive experience at the beginning. And I think when we were talking about burnout, yoga is that connection inward, like exactly what you were saying. And it's interesting because while we can create this connection to ourselves, we still find ways to ignore the messages. It's like, even though I was practicing yoga and had a connection to my body, it's so interesting that the mind is so powerful that it can still, and the ego is so powerful that it can still override even those sensations that are different to the usual ones. You have your usual aches and pains, and your practice feels different every day, whether that's a physical practice or a meditative practice. But then something really out of the blue comes along, and that's probably maybe also Capricorn stubbornness. It's like, nope, I'm good. I'm great. Everything is fine. And I think it also says something about, I think, how the spirituality wellness world has evolved in, I guess, like the modern Western way of living at the moment, where it's still very goal oriented. I remember I started practicing Ashtanga, and in Ashtanga, while it's a beautiful system and a beautiful methodology, it's like you have to practice enough to get awarded like the next pose. And then once you've mastered that, you get the next pose. And there is this goal orientation of needing to somehow get somewhere. And instead of just like, you are exactly where you are and you don't need to go anywhere and you don't need to do anything. So there is something about yoga and spirituality and even personal development in how it's become, this almost place where it's reinforcing some of the things we're trying to break free from the practices themselves. And I think that's part of my decision of taking this break, is like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, how is the way that I'm teaching, the information that I'm sharing, the paradigm in which I'm operating in, potentially still harming people, potentially harming myself, potentially colluding in, these maybe super hyper individualistic ways, where we become so self-focused that we forget what the real thing is, this like bigger picture, the collective, God, oneness, the universe, whatever it is that people want to connect to. So yeah, that's just an interesting little side journey as part of the wider path I've been on, I guess.
While you were speaking and talking about how we can push through a lot of the times, our body's calls to stop, to pause, to reflect, to just take a break, to slow down, even with the yoga practice. And definitely I was there. And we wanted to talk about spiritual bypassing. And this feels like a form of spiritual bypass, but perhaps more like a physical bypass. Like I'm going to physically bypass the aches and the pains because practice and all is coming. I mean, right? Like this is what we learn in our yoga teacher training, like practice and all is coming. And I remember questioning that a lot. I was like, what is coming that is not already here? So I changed it for myself. I was like, I'm not practicing because something is coming. I'm practicing and all is here already. Like everything is already present.
I love that.
And so I feel like one thing about any practice or anything that you do in life, questioning it is important.
Yeah.
Is this the right form of practice for me? Like you mentioned Ashtanga. It's not the right form of practice for me. It doesn't feel right in my body. I don't like the cues a lot of the times. And I'm so grateful for the teachers that I've had that were aware of these things already when I did my teacher training in 2019, telling me like, why do we say that you need to put your feet together in Tadasana, mountain pose, and your ankles apart? Like, where is this coming from? Why are we being so rigid with the yoga practice? Why aren't we allowing it to be this flexible practice? So questioning the lineages can sometimes be like a trigger for people. Like, how dare you like question these things? And fair enough, like it works for some people to have that discipline and devotion and rigidity and all of that.
Yeah.
But it can also be detrimental when it's not also inclusive of the feminine. Because for me, like all of the traits I mentioned are very like masculine traits.
100%.
And the traits that I want to mention are like the feminine traits, which is listen. Be slow, not because you're not going anywhere, but because there's beauty in also just being still, being in this moment, realizing that there's nothing for you to really achieve outside of yourself, that all of these things that we're looking for, they're already within us. So for me, at least, that's where I used to really question, why am I posting my yoga practice in this way, where it's all about like the outfits, the poses, the external. And eventually it fizzled out of my life because it just didn't feel true and authentic to me. Not to say that people that are doing it should stop, but on my journey, it just felt like it was taking away from my practice. And my practice feels a lot more sacred than just what you see. It feels really internal.
That's
and
really
I can't
beautiful.
explain it.
I love that.
I'm trying to, but
I feel like that's something I think you should be really proud of, like that you, in these moments in your life, have made decisions to be like, wait a minute, no, wait a minute, question this. I think that I really enjoy authority and structure and rigidity. And so I find it much more challenging for me to take ownership and my own power and decide, because I think it was just part of that generation of like, you just follow, you know, like even my schooling was like, we just had to memorize everything. There was like no critical thinking whatsoever. So I think, I think that's just a testament to also like claiming your sense of self and your power, and just to be like, okay, I tried that and it wasn't working, and I'm going to shift. And I guess each person has their own timeline of like when things are right for them.
I love that. Of course, everyone has their own timeline, paths, direction, journeys. And it's not 100%. To say one is right and one is wrong, one is better and one is not. It was just also to be grateful for the teachers that I had in my life as well, because they really just allowed me to critically think, to question, because they were the ones that were like, question your authorities, question your teachers, question
Beautiful.
what you're learning, why you're learning it in this way. Don't just like swallow things all the time, and just because your teacher said this and it's right, like, how does it feel in your body to be in this posture?
Yeah.
And that was really for me like an opening, because I'm a very curious being and I like to investigate and I like to learn, to really just, you know, be discerning with what I choose to believe in and what I choose to incorporate in my life, and also what I choose to, you know, put aside, like not for me, for someone else. Not discrediting it, not saying that it's bad, because I came in through the path of Ashtanga, so it has its purpose.
For sure.
And everything has its purpose and its seasons, but also
Yeah.
our practices have its seasons. So I feel like that's what's happening to you. It's like your practice is
Yeah.
going through a new season.
Totally. Totally. And I think that's also something that more linear or rigid structures of wellness don't incorporate, is like the feminine, which is very cyclical, and that there will be times in your life where something very dynamic and high intensity and vigorous is going to feel amazing, and then there's going to be times where you need to retreat and slow down, or something completely different and unique in the middle. And I think part of like breaking the chains of spiritual bypassing is exactly what your teachers taught you, to question and to think and to feel in your own body, and to understand that we all have wisdom. Like we have the wisdom, and that it's not living somewhere else with someone. And so if we have the wisdom, then we can really make the right choices, and we can then empower other people to do the same.
I feel that so much, by the way, because it is an empowering practice when you're your own authority as well. Like everyone is their own authority. Everyone has the answers within them. What feels true to them, whether it's with their practice or whether it's with what we're looking at on a daily basis, like all of the information. Like something I shared recently was how I won't listen to that many podcasts, or I won't like read as many books as I used to, because it's all feels like I'm assimilating, digesting other people's experiences and perspectives and opinions.
Interesting.
And it's creating a clog in my mind, and I just want to keep my channels as clear as possible.
Wow, amazing.
So that I come to the conclusion, not necessarily on my own. It's not to say that I didn't have guidance in any way, but just in a way where I feel like it's not coming from the external. It's really coming from this turning in within myself, tuning in to my world. And we all have that capacity. We all have our connection with the divine, with God, with the universe, regardless of anything. Like I really feel like we all, each as individuals, have our own unique way of communicating with that greater power.
Absolutely.
So why would you want to go and try to find it in the same ways as anybody else?
I love that. I love that so much. And I think if we just continue to inspire people to think like that, to act like that, to be like that, the better the wellness space will be, the better the world will be, honestly. And I think the divine is something that's, just so really like missing. I think that's part of the ways that the wellness space is colonized. You know, it's like our first kind of disconnect from the divine is already like in the way that we're modernizing. And then in the spiritual space where it's supposed to be really front and center, you know, there's even so many different words for it, right? It's like, I think when I started teaching yoga, even though my teacher says God, you know, I would be like, oh, like, I'm not going to say the G word. Like, it's going to trigger somebody. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. But I'm kind of like, no, like, let's just like be real. Like, for sure, there are different names for this one energy, being, universe, nature, light, source. But let's bring it back to the forefront of what we're trying to do so that we can, really like return and remember, and therefore become yeah, these whole, full, empowered beings, so that we're not then continuously searching. I'm doing this course now that's called Decolonizing Therapy. And even though I'm not a therapist, I'm entering it from the space of how I am potentially, healing or coaching people. And the whole idea is that when it comes to like whatever, this kind of typical therapeutic space, they're just looking at you as an individual, separately. They're looking at your mind separate from your body. So it feels like we've moved into this fragmentation, this like separatism, and everything about the wellness spiritual world, all of the texts are like, no, we want to reconnect, we want to remember, we want to come back to God, come back to source. And my teacher always does this kind of like thing with her hands when she's like, we are dismembered and we need to like remember. And she does this beautiful thing with her hands, and I always think about it. But it's true. It's like there's this hyper individualization that's fragmented us from source, but also from ourselves. And then we start to think that everything that's wrong with us is just ours, when now we know, of course, like, no, there's generational trauma, there's collective trauma, there's familial trauma, there's societal trauma, there's systemic trauma. It's like there's so many other layers that are influencing our wellness, our well-being. And we tend to just point the finger all at ourselves and be like, oh, it must be me. Like, I must be too sensitive. I must be too angry. I must be too hot-headed. I must be too much of an empath. I must be this, I must be that. And it's like, well, no, let's look at like the larger picture and try to understand like that our unwellness is coming from this fragmentation. And I feel like that's also where the spiritual bypassing comes in. So many practices don't include the spiritual aspects. It's very physical driven, physical focused, asana or posture focused, exterior body focused. And it's like, is it really a spiritual practice if it's not truly inclusive, like you said, to everybody? Different bodies, different abilities, different disabilities, different, people with different types of trauma. And I think when things with Palestine started happening in October, and I started to notice this intense grief and this intense sorrow and this intense dysregulation in my body, while I know that the practice that I offer, because of the space that I offer, is a place of healing for people, it did really like hit me straight in the head. And it occurred to me that, hey, like, is this practice really supportive right now? You know, like, is this like high, upbeat, uplifting, like juicy, delicious, like let's chant, let's be like in a warrior, let's flow. Like, yes, that's great. And I think like in everyday life, that's going to be a supportive, influential practice. But I think in times of extreme trauma and despair, how am I going to come in there and be like, all right, guys, three-legged dog, put your foot in the air, everybody, step it forward. Isn't this a great tune? Like, I was just like, wait. Something is not right. It's no longer inclusive to the moment, to the mood, and really to myself. Like I was kind of like, oh, now I kind of wish I was a yin yoga teacher, because that's probably all I think I could handle and everybody could handle like in this moment. And so, yeah, I think those have all been big questions that I've been just kind of like chewing on.
Questions that we need to be asking ourselves as well, for sure. And like you, when everything in October unfolded, I was obviously on Instagram scrolling, having done many courses with many teachers in the past that have big platforms, that were completely silent, or if anything, not necessarily speaking the truth, just putting a band-aid on like such a deep wound. Like,
you're right.
You guys know my heart, right? Like, I'm a good person, right? Like, obviously I'm with everyone. Like, I'm for everything. I'm for peace. And you're like, okay, like we get that bigger picture of union and we're not separated and we're all one. And yet, like, the arm of somebody's being cut off right now, and it hurts the whole body. But yet, no, it's okay. It's just an arm or whatever. Like, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was just very interesting. And I even asked myself, do I even want to be in that type of community? Do I even want to say that I'm a spiritual coach and I do these things?
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
feel
like,
that.
I don't know. This is not necessarily my community of people, because I would rather not have those titles and not be identified to any of those things and be in both my humanity and divinity together without a title, versus like saying that this is my community of people, but like I belong to, literally it's like the same thing but dressed up a little bit differently. It's like the corporate world, all of the things that we said that we didn't want, but like, no, it is all of that.
Yes.
But let's make it look different. Let's just like throw in like, you know, cool words like mindfulness, meditation, body work, somatic work, this and that, like cacao ceremonies, plant medicine ceremony. Like we'll do all of that, but literally we're the same beast.
100%. I was actually speaking with somebody and she kind of said the same thing to me. I was like, mind blown. And she was like, when she went also from corporate to teaching yoga, and she also had this aha moment of being like, oh my God, like I have just replaced one capitalistic, colonial, patriarchal system for another. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, 100%. And oh my God, why? And oh my God, what am I going to do? And oh my God, where do I fit in? 100%. And I think, yeah, this wave of spiritual influencers, teachers, guides who believe that, you know, engaging in content or content around the liberation of Palestine is low vibration. I even saw a comment that was like, your pain is your ego. It's not your true self. So rise above. And I was like, I want to reach my arms like through the screen and like strangle you. And I think the rage is good. It's like, it's kind of like you said, like, I feel like it's making us want to like burn like everything down and just like start again. Like, this isn't working, guys. Like, it is all not working. Like, we have forgotten the feminine. We are getting sick. We are ignoring our bodies. We are perpetuating stereotypes. We're perpetuating patriarchy. We are colluding in colonialism. We are hyper individualizing, like all these things that we're supposed to be getting away from. I mean, no wonder a lot of people are so confused, you know? And
because a big part of what makes us us has been literally brushed aside, repressed, suppressed, distorted. You mentioned the feminine, and this is what I meant, like referring to here. We've omitted that or tried to omit that.
Yeah.
So it's like returning back to that, like that remembering that you did, like remembering for me, it's like, you know, coming back into the membrane, coming back into the body, right? Like we're coming back into the body, like enough of this ascension stuff. Like recently I had posted, maybe not that recently, but like my journey with like my skin and acne and all of that, because it was a very big journey of mine. And I know that a lot of people struggle with it. And I approached it more from like a holistic way, in the sense of like, I knew that it wasn't just like one thing. It wasn't just food. It was also my belief systems around worthiness, being seen in the world, like all of these things were playing a role. And I shared it because obviously I did grow through it. Like I'm not the same person. I look at these pictures, I don't cringe like I used to. I'm okay that version of me existed. I'm not sharing it out of pity or like feel bad for me or anything like that. But this one person responded to the story and was like, you have to rise above this. Like, this is not good for your ascension. Like, you can't keep talking about these things. And I'm like, whoa, what is this obsession with ascension?
Honestly. And like, it must be so nice up in the 5D where you're just chilling with the angels and you're drinking your matcha, chaga combo. Like, welcome to the 3D where sometimes like things are really shit. Like, come back down from your high horse. And that's what's been so frustrating for me is like, have we forgotten to be in touch with this reality, like this lifetime, like this human body experience? How can you continue to just close your eyes and say, okay, I'm up, I'm here, I'm ascending. Don't go down there, low vibration, bad. And that's why I love that you work a lot with like shadows and like shadow work and inner child work. And it's like, no, let's go down into the underworld and let's live here for a bit, because
we're clearly
that's
living
the
here.
bypassing. Yes, we
We're
are
clearly
here.
living here. This is where we're at. Like, why are you trying to deny that this is where we're at?
100%.
I know we want to bring heaven to earth, and it is a possibility, and it does exist.
Yep.
And we can embody it. We can still be that embodiment
we
of
can
that.
hold this vision and continue to like work towards it for sure.
However, you have to see things as they are. And this is the reality, like the chaos, the madness, the destruction, the pain, the suffering, the grief, like all of these things, they're there. And you might think that it doesn't affect you because it doesn't affect you today. But someone was telling me something, they're like, yeah, one day that knock will be on your door.
Yeah.
And no one's going to come and answer it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
And nobody's going to come.
Yeah.
And so really that's where I find that solidarity is very important. It is important to state where you stand and to speak your truth authentically and powerfully and not to shy away from these conversations, even though they're hard. And shadow work for me, I've been doing it for the last few years, especially this last, like these last 9 months, because the shadows of the world are all exposed.
Yeah.
So I have to do it.
Yeah. It's all coming up on a collective level and it's coming up individually as well. 100%. Like we are being asked to face, the ugly stuff within us, like the pissed off person inside of me, the angry person inside of me, the judgmental person inside of me, the person that wants to cut people off, that doesn't want to be compassionate, that doesn't want to like kumbaya with everybody. Yeah. And I'm like, whew, like this is a lot. And like let's all come and sit with it. And I think people forget that this is also the human experience. We can't live in this like Santosha Zen space all the time. We might reach moments of it. We might taste it when we do these beautiful spiritual practices that are so sacred and also, appropriated in so many ways and cut from their roots and their sources. But we have to also really like be okay with confronting the darkness of the world and the world that's inside of us as well.
And it does get pretty dark if you really sit with it. It can.
Yeah.
It can definitely be there. Like, I felt it a lot for sure. I was like, whoa, I contain that much darkness? Like, that's insane. But then it's like, now when I am sitting with a person, the empathy, the compassion that I have for them is also so much greater because it's like, oof, like, okay, I feel that. Like, I feel what you're talking about.
Amen.
And it's not small. And I feel like we've belittled a lot of stuff because just don't be too sensitive. It's okay, whatever, move past this. And I did that a lot in my life. And it brought me nowhere. There was no healing that actually happened. It was only really when I looked at it, tended to it, listened to my pain, did it actually have the potential to transform. Otherwise, it just sits there and then if anything, it grows even bigger. And you're like, wait, why is this growing? Like, I thought that I dealt with it, but no, you didn't deal with it.
Yeah. I remember that at the beginning of my journey, like really having the urge to want to fix things that didn't feel good, whether that was in myself or with my partnerships or with clients. Like, oh, I'm really feeling this. And I'd be like, oh, how can I make you feel better? Like, what can I give you or like assign to you or like share with you that's going to like make you feel better? like so that you go home and you like feel good. And I still struggle with that sometimes, you know, like some people will have a healing experience that isn't positive because it is going to bring up something that they haven't dealt with. And I have to sit with that discomfort of like, oh, like here's more of this like ooey gooey stuff that's like coming up that's so real. But the more we do it, like you said, the more it expands us, the more it stretches us, the more capacity and bandwidth we have. And then we can sit with people and be like, I've been here and it's okay. And I'm safe and I can hold this. Otherwise, we're just holding such a narrow window of compassion. And we're like, oh, we're not going to go there. And like, oh, don't be too happy and don't be too sad. Just exist in this very nice, polite, delightful, sophisticated middle ground, you know, when like, no, like let's open, stretch. And I think that's the sad part of this spiritual bypassing, and also this like toxic positivity of like high vibration and ascension. You know, it's like, okay, well, if you continue to only live in that one space, how will you ever have the space and the capacity to hold other people's pain, other people's hurt, other people's rage, other people's dirty baggage? We all have it, right? And I feel like it's just been narrowing people's window. And now they're like, oh, I deleted them, I cut them off, I did this. When it comes to truth, don't get me wrong, we do it, right? In this situation with Palestine, there's truth. And that's what Gabor Mate says. He's like, it's not my opinion, it's truth. When it comes to truth and facts, bye, peace, cut, over. But when it's like I'm having a human experience and it doesn't make me feel good, I'm not going to cut you off. I'm going to be able to like sit with it and hold it. But yeah, here we are.
Here we are, by the way, like
what a cool, weird, crazy, interesting time. And I feel, yeah, even though very late to this decolonial spiritual bypassing space now, to the party, but it's also like really, really exciting. And I just feel so open, and I'm just ready to like learn and receive and see how it evolves things over time.
I would say as well, like unlearn everything that we've learned. Like if anything, it's most possibly our natural way of being. Not being colonized is our natural way of being. Not being conditioned is our natural way of being. And it's unlearning all of the things that we've learned about everything.
Yeah, spot on.
Question everything. Again, like for me, questioning is so important. And it's okay if there's confusion as well. I feel like people get really uncomfortable when there are moments of confusion, like, why am I going through this experience? And wanting to have the answer right away of, why am I going through this? And it's like, can you just exist with this experience the way that it is for you right now? And allow life to unfold in its natural way. And there will be guidance, because there's always guidance. But again, guidance shows when you are present, when you are dropping even more into your feminine energy. That's at least for me, like allowing that side to really just be there and exist. And yes, it ebbs and it flows through different cycles with the moon, with all of these different seasons, everything. I mean, we have our own inner seasons too, but it's like, can you just know that it's always guiding you? You're never not being guided and being shown the way. And even amidst all of the confusion, to still hold that light within yourself, because you're like, okay, like, if I do believe that it is all one, it is all God, then I am returning back to that ultimately.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's also something around being okay with not knowing. I feel like that sense of like complete surrender, reverence, and also really like humility. Like, I don't know the answers. I don't know if this is the right decision. I don't know if questioning this is the right thing to do. I don't know if changing my mind or changing my path is the right thing to do. And I think sometimes we get fixated on like needing to know the answer, because it like helps orient us in the world. It's like, okay, who am I with? Like, which tribe, which community, which faction, and am I going to like rest in? And I think we need to be okay with not knowing, and remembering that while we have a lot of like inner wisdom, we might not know a lot also. And I think to be okay with not being right either, you know, like I don't know if I don't think I was okay with that for a very long time. And now I'm like, I could really be wrong. Like I could really, really just, this could be what I think, but 10 years down the line, I might realize maybe it wasn't wrong, but it's not right for me, and I can shift and I can change. And that's why I think that should hopefully like encourage people to question things. So it's like, it's okay if you don't know the answer. And when you do find an answer, it's okay if it changes or if it wasn't right. And it's all part of, yeah, this human experience.
It's funny that you say that, because I swear every time I watch one of my podcasts, I'm like, I don't agree with what I said back then. Like my opinion changed, my belief changed.
Yeah.
It's like constantly being like, okay, I'm going to check, like, do I still believe in this? No? Okay. And then there's a new one. And it's like, wow, like I feel like I'm growing, like, okay, on a week-to-week basis, because it's like, I don't necessarily agree with what I said. And it's okay as well, like, for me to be like, that's not really it. There's something else.
Yeah.
And I love what you did. It's like, there's many things that exist at once. And that was something for me when everything was really, and it still is, heightened with the collective pain and suffering and grief with Palestine. It's like, you can be on your spiritual journeys and you can speak out against the genocide. Like, these things can coexist. And again, it's this need of people to separate things, even though they're like claiming for union and I'm all for the one. It's like, I only want to be in high vibrational, so I'm omitting the other side of the coin, which is clearly there. And if anything, it's the top side of the coin, because it's like in our faces.
Yeah. Yeah. It's our literal current lived experience that we are denying, or people are denying. Yeah. And I think that the higher evil powers that be have like really done a good job at like designing it the way that they want to, so that people do feel like it's just political, and therefore they don't need to engage because, oh, they're not into politics, their family didn't talk about politics. And it's like, wow, like they've used this tool where people can say, oh, that's me, but that's not me, when in fact, like, we live in the most digitized, connected world. How can you say in the most connected time on earth, literally, that we are separate from something? Like, that's what just completely blows my mind. That, oh, well, no, don't put yoga and politics together. They're two separate departments. It's like, no, let's put everything together, especially when we're talking about a system that's not just coming onto a mat and moving your body. This is a system with thousands and thousands of years of text and philosophy and wisdom and sages and teachers. And I mean, it's so robust. It's massive. We can't just say, I mean, this girl said, oh, I would, in the same way that you would never put like a president's photo in a yoga shala, like it's for a different place. It's for like the administrative offices, but like you wouldn't put it in the yoga space. And I'm like, you have lost the absolute plot. Like, if that's what you think politics is, and if that's what you think yoga is, then like, there needs to be a whole like rehaul here of like everything. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is how a lot of people feel and what a lot of people really believe. And, she's like, I've been practicing yoga for 10 years. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been practicing for 10 years. What are we practicing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Burn it down, start again. Literally.
Burn it down, start again. And
burn it down.
It's interesting because I feel like people assume like the feminine is like this very like collected, calm, like let's, put out the fire. And if anything, like the more I'm sitting with this, it's like, no, the feminine is like, we're burning this all to the ground. This is not working. This is not the way that it's meant to be operating. You cannot just omit people, texts. I'm talking texts because there are texts that have been omitted from a lot of religious books as well. We omit the feminine in so many ways. We disregard, we brush aside. There's all of these things that are happening. let's ascend. And I feel like ascension is really this energy of, the masculine when it's not in its balance. It's obsessed with like leaving this world.
Yeah. 100%.
It's like, where are you going? You came here for a reason. Really. And I'm reminded of that a lot, actually, because I used to do that very easily.
Yeah.
I used to like, oh, okay, meditation.
Yeah.
Fly.
Yeah.
And then my body started to speak to me. And I started to get a lot of health issues, especially in my womb. Fibroids, all of that. I ended up with a C-section, which I've been actually meaning to come and like see you for, to do like a womb massage, because I get like quite a lot of like tension and scar tissue and things like that. And it was because I was living in the upper chakras.
Yeah.
And it's like, hello.
Yeah.
Hello, we exist.
Yeah.
These stories are there. We need to do something with them.
Yep.
I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm a mini Buddha. I can fly.
And the literal like bridge between this like ascended state and this like lower earthly state of the like 3 chakras below, 3 chakras above is the heart. And if we are stopping ourselves from feeling everything, like this is where it all lives, like the sadness, the joy, the love, the anger, the pain. It's like if we're stopping ourselves from literally like feeling, there is not going to be any ascension. It's going to be a figment of your imagination.
Exactly. Do you not want to see what you're visualizing in your meditation, in your practices, in your ayahuasca ceremonies, like all that? Don't you want to see this in real life? Don't you want to open your door and like actually see this and know that other people are seeing the same thing? And what a privilege it is, by the way, for people to turn a blind eye, to close their eyes on this, and also to do the work. And I was sharing this with Haya Yasmin. It's like, do you realize like how privileged we are that we get to do this work, that we get to regulate our nervous systems, that we get to like work on our traumas, that we get to do all of these things? Like, it is a privilege.
100%.
Being spiritual today, it feels like it is a privilege.
Yeah, definitely. There's a beautiful book called Rest is Resistance. And a lot of people try to say like, oh, you should go on like a retreat, or you should go to this beautiful Himalayan place, or you should go here, you go here to rest. And her big thing is like, if it doesn't apply to every single human, like including a woman in a prison cell, then it is not like the true thing. Then it's a privileged form of rest, and it's a privileged form of spirituality. And so, yeah, like let's continue to just explore all of those big themes and see where it takes us.
They're very big, and what's exciting though at the same time, at least the way that I see it, is like we get to really be the seed planters. We really get to be these people that are like, okay, things have been burning to the ground. Things are coming apart, and it's just really a matter of when it's all going to and we're planting seeds. And something that I really had to make peace with, which was quite hard, was that I might not necessarily see all the fruits of my labor. It doesn't mean that I don't plant the seed. It doesn't mean that I don't still do the work and that I don't hold that vision. Just because I'm not going to see that vision in this human body doesn't mean there's not a version of me that could eventually one day see it. I'm not necessarily doing it for me, but thinking about it in that way, because I used to be like, but I want to see it now. I want to see this world today. Like, what is wrong? It's easy. Just, this is what needs to happen. You guys, come on, let's get there. We've done this dance for too long.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, maybe I won't see it.
Yeah.
And that's also okay.
Yeah.
But I'll still do the work.
Yeah.
I'll still do the work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Such a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot that we could probably keep unpacking, but it feels like the timing is very potent, and we have to thank Palestine for that and our privilege of being able to ponder the questions and not be living inside of the horror and the trauma that we, for some reason, were gifted a life outside of it. And for whatever reason, this is the role of planting the seeds and the intentions and holding the vision and the prayer that we have to do from the outside, as difficult as that can be sometimes, to just feel the guilt of just being able to be, stable and comfortable or free.
And I would also just add, like, not to underestimate that work, the holding of the vision, the prayers, the decolonizing, the recognizing of the privileges, and all of that, that there is also value in that. And again, I feel like because we're a society that wants to see things with our eyes, like, what is the value of this? And it's like, there might not be a visual representation of it.
100%. We're so focused on the external, physical, tangible results that it's like, wait, what is happening on subconscious and energetic and angelic, like collective level that, we might not also understand, right? Like it can be something that we just won't be able to fully grasp with our teeny tiny human minds.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like the mysteries of life have remained mysterious for this long.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to remain mysterious. So
100%.
It's, like you mentioned, it's humbling. I find myself very humbled many, many times. And people look at it like, oh, maybe being humble is like a negative state. But it's a beautiful state, I find, to be in.
I think it's everything,
I don't have all the answers. And that's a beautiful thing too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dina, I could talk to you, by the way, for so much longer. I feel like we'll have another one of these conversations.
Yes.
Who knows, in 6 months or something.
Amazing. Well, we'll just disagree with everything that we said.
Exactly. I can't believe I said that. Like last time I was here. What was that about?
You think you knew, but you had no idea.
But at least I ended with, I don't know anything.
Yes. High five you from here.
Right? At least I said, I'm humbled to know that I don't know it all.
Amen.
Okay.
Amazing.
My hand is up also. So there we go,
Thank you so much. This was so good for the soul, and it's so good to just spend time with you. I love you. I love everything that you do. I love what you represent, the space that you're holding for people, and I'm just so honored to be here. So thank you.
I feel the same exact way about you, really, truly. I feel like we're both mirroring each other in the ways that we like to be seen as well. So that's very nice to have someone see you, and it's been really beautiful talking to you. I feel like we need to hug it out. I always like to...
Let's do it.
To go for the hug at the... And you were talking about the heart chakra in the middle. Yeah. And you're wearing green.